Hi everyone and welcome to session 5. In session 5 you're going to be reading chapters 11 through 13. You're going to be looking at the role of fiscal policy and how fiscal policy and monetary policy influence our economy. Fiscal policy is going to be concerned about changes in government spending and or taxes. And I have some important videos right here for you to review. Also, fiscal policy is going to be the role of the discussion topic for this week. So with the discussion, let's go to that and see what it's going to be covered. Here's the 3 discussion questions that you're going to be focused on. How has fiscal policy been effective in the U.S. and being more stable over the last several years? How has fiscal policy helped the economy be able to become stable? Question 2, does the economy improve if the government chooses to follow counter-cyclical fiscal policy, which means when the economy is going through different various cycles, they're doing different policies to counteract those cycles. Question 3, how difficult is it to get a change in fiscal policy? For this question, you want to make sure to focus on the 3 main time lags in fiscal policy. That'll be key for your efforts on that question. For your first post should be by Wednesday. It should probably be 3 to 4 paragraphs at least to really fully answer those questions. You want to make sure to have an APA formatted in-text citation and reference to support your work, and 2 peer responses by Saturday. Here's the paper. The paper is going to be write a 4 to 5 page research topic of your choice. You should have chose the topic already that I've approved or disproved. Here's the couple things that I'm looking for. Is it the appropriate coverage? Is the paper assigned the length and adequately touches on the main points of the assignment? So the main points of the assignment are these right here that I'm looking for. And if you review the paper assignments in the files section, that'll help you with what we're looking at. Connection to course concepts. Do you actually bring in course concepts into the paper and really apply them? Mechanics. Do you have any mechanical errors? Is APA formatting used in your paper? And connection to Christian faith. Do you attempt to try to relate some aspect of the paper to your faith? If you want, I'm more than willing to pre-grade your paper as well. All you have to do is just submit it to me early through email, and I can easily review that for you. Now, for the week 5 homework assignment, let's go through each of them. Now, question 1. What happens to aggregate demand when transfer payments and taxes to pay for them both rise by the same amount? So if transfer payments rise and taxes increase as well, consumers will have more money because there's more transfer payments in consumers' pockets. However, they're paying more in taxes. How will that influence aggregate demand? Question 2. What prompted China's fiscal stimulus in 2008? Had the government not intervened, what might have happened? So the government of China was focused on creating stimulus. If they did not create this stimulus, would it have caused a recession or not? Make sure to focus on the 2 main important areas of an economy. Businesses and consumers. Question 3. Why do critics charge that fiscal policy is a big government bias? So now, with fiscal policy, it's the manipulation of taxes and or government spending. So you might see this big government bias because of the large spending by the government. Question 4, in the tax cut on this page, how much did consumer saving increase initially? So look at consumer savings, and how much did it increase? How large is this initial injection? from that actual problem. Question 5 is going to be dealing with page 238. And you're going to be looking at the role of the multiplier. So I'm going to show you a question that you might have challenges with. And this is right here. If the MPC was 0.75, how much spending increased as a result? So how much spending occurred, you multiply that by the multiplier. Okay, so you multiply that by 4, which would be the MPC. And whatever the MPC is, so it's 1 over MPS, that's the multiplier. So 1 over MPS, which is 1 over 0.25, which is 4. So whatever amount that was spent, multiply it by 4. Question 6 is looking at worldview on page 235, and it's answering questions related to that. Question 7, you're looking at real GDP of an economy from this. You're looking to see where does real GDP and supplied equals demanded. So it's at 800. So you're going to find out where that is. That's the equilibrium. If full employment occurs at 880, but our equilibrium is 800, so we're not at our potential. How large is the gap? So you want to look at how large is the gap. If A decreases enough to restore full employment, what will the price level be? So if we need to get at 880, what will it be at if that was our full employment level? Question 8. Who paid for the Revolutionary War? Did the deficit financing initiated by Continental Congress pass the cost of the war on to future generations? So this is looking at debt spending, and whether if we have debt spending, does that hurt future generations because we have to borrow from one to pay for another. When are larger deficits desirable? On this question, you want to focus on times when the economy is in a recession. When economy is in a recession, you'll notice that we need to spend more money. That might be the only time it would be desirable. Question 10. In what ways do future generations benefit from this generational deficit spending? So 3 examples. So trying to stimulate consumers could be 1. Helping the economy be able to stabilize, that's number 2. And creating jobs. That's where generational spending or deficit spending is very important. You could use those 3 examples. Question 11. What is considered too much debt or too large of a deficit? Are you able to provide any guidelines? Now, with this question, the challenge we're facing in our economy is don't focus so much on the number, focus more on the actual percentage of GDP. How much is our debt compared to a percentage of GDP? That's where you'd want to focus more on. I think that'll make it much easier to understand. How long would it take to pay off the national debt? How would the economy be affected? So in the second part, if we had to cut government spending and increase taxes, you'll notice that economic growth would be much more affected because of the lack of stimulus that would be provided. Question 13. Which of the following options do you favor for resolving future Social Security deficits? What are the advantages and disadvantages of each option? So now, if we cut Social Security benefits, that would create more money in the system, but also people might be at a disadvantage. Raising payroll taxes, well, that would help fund the current system. Cutting non-Social Security problems, that could help it as well. If we cut other programs, that could put more money into that program. And raising taxes. So raising income taxes could also put money in that program as well. Question 14 is just basically looking at that table and the changes in spending. And that would be table 12.1. Question 15, since 1980, in how many years has the federal budget had a surplus? So just look at that table. You'll probably find it's very surprising as well. Question 16, suppose the government had no debt and a balanced budget. Suddenly it decided to spend $4 trillion while raising only $3 trillion worth of taxes. So now the government goes right back into a deficit and we want to know, how would you finance this deficit? Would you finance it, and how much would you finance the deficit? Question 17 deals with chapter 12, problem 10. So you just want to look at the percentage on figure 12.4. Question 18. Why are checking account balances, not credit card accounts, regarded as money? Money is anything that you can, if I'm sitting in a room and you can take my money and actually use it to spend, that's what money would be regarded as. I could write you a check right now and it's included in the money system. Question 19. Why do banks pay higher interest rates for longer term certificates of deposit? For this question, you want to focus on the longer amount of holding the money, it costs people more money. There's more risk involved. So if I wanted to have someone borrow money and I'll say, pay me back tomorrow, that's a lot different than paying me back in 4 years. So I'm going to ask for a higher interest rate because there's more risk involved. Question 20. Does the fact your bank keeps only a fraction of your account balance in reserve make you uncomfortable? Which means a bank will loan out a percentage of all deposits. So in the U.S. economy, the Fed says you hold 10% of all the deposits. So if I deposit $100 in the bank, the bank is required to hold $10. They can loan the rest out. What would be the challenge if people came racing to the bank? Question 21. How does the Federal Deposit Insurance encourage greater risk taking by banks? Could the banking system function without government deposit insurance? So this is called the FDIC. On this question, focus on what would consumers do if there was no protection in banks? Would consumers put money in banks? And if consumers wouldn't put money in banks, how would that influence the economy if no consumer wanted to put money in a bank? Question 22 deals with this bank right here. How much excess reserves do the banks have? Remember, assets have to equal liabilities. So you want to add this up to see how much they have able to loan out. And how much can this bank loan out? After you do the $6,000 equals whatever this is, then you can see how much extra they can loan out. Question 23. How large is the difference between the interest rates on a 6-month and a 5-year on this page? Why does this difference exist? So for this week, you have what we've just covered, the quiz, let me get back to it. You have the discussion, the paper, the homework, and 3 quizzes. I look forward to your effort by Saturday night. And if you have any questions, please send me an email as well.